Twisted Christian. Today I'm going to be discussing these so-called prosperity packages. Some of you have left comments on some of my videos, so I just kind of want to deal with that. And I'm going to go back to 2009 when I first got involved in the N.E.S.A.R.A investment. So guys, also too, if you guys like for me to continue making videos, please support Twisted Christian on Patreon and also PayPal, and there's other number of links you can support with the Grigori project that I've been working on, which you can view some of that on the Patreon. Alright, so there was some comments that were made on one of my videos that I had discussed about the prosperity package. I mentioned it briefly. You know, people are depending on those. And I just was doing some research, and because I remember, and I think I've said in the past that I didn't get involved into the N.E.S.A.R.A investment until 2011, and it was actually 2009. And I was part of a group that discussed the N.E.S.A.R.A back in 2009, but also that came up during that time period was the prosperity packages. And so we were told that everybody is going to get, $10 million, and it comes from the Germain Trust fund, and this whole thing with N.E.S.A.R.A and all that. And of course, at that time, I was a little naive and just believing anything that was said. And that's what kind of led me to have this kind of anger towards gurus and some of these private groups and all this and all that, because there was a lot of fakery. And, these people were talking to the elites, white hats, whatever you want to call them. And there was just a lot of misinformation and a lot of false facts concerning that. And so there was a lot of dates and all these things about how, this is supposed to happen. We gave our phone numbers, our address, emails, and when these prosperity packages come out, everybody's going to receive this amount of money, and the Germain Trust has like quadrillions worth of money in the account and all this stuff. And I didn't really have an understanding because I was just, really getting into the N.E.S.A.R.A investment, but then this particular group was going off into these prosperity packages. So I was just doing some research so you guys understand where I'm coming from. And of course, this comes from N.E.S.A.R.A and this whole thing about this whole act that was supposed to have been signed. And there was, when I was doing my research, and you'll find out that, of course, all these people that were involved in the whole N.E.S.A.R.A thing, they're all dead. And a lot of people connected to this thing were charged with crimes and everything else. This bill, supposedly bill, was never introduced to Congress. It was shown to Congress, but it was never introduced. It was supposed to be signed by Bush and then Clinton and then Obama and all this other stuff. So I did some intense research, on these prosperity packages. And I just kept going page after page after page where it was just like dead links or, just nothing to anything official. And this whole N.E.S.A.R.A thing was tied to the Germain Trust. Germain Trust. And I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, like I go to this website here, N.E.S.A.R.A announcements expected in 2019. Well, they've been saying this for a long time. And there's nothing in there. There's nothing in Congress that was ever submitted. So that's for one. And then they say it's like all this money in here. And I remember back in 2009, I was told, and I didn't think about it for a couple years later, is that they were waiting on the N.E.S.A.R.A in order to give out these prosperity packages. Well, one of the things that I thought about, well, if this trust has all this money, they don't need the N.E.S.A.R.A to hand out all these prosperity packages, right? I mean, I just remember for the next 2 or 3 years, they're like, make sure your email's updated, make sure your address is updated, and we're giving our information to these elites. Well, later on, these same elites were supposed to be giving out these medical cards that was supposed to be like a medical card benefit, where they would give you this card, this debit card, and $500 every month would automatically be loaded upon it. And so we had to sign up for that, and of course I was naive, I didn't know. And then they were building it up for months and months and months. And then at the very last moment, these elites pulled back and say, we can't do it. right? After we gave all this information, all these online meetings and phone conference calls, everything about it, they pulled back, supposedly, elites. That's why a lot of times, when people do talk about good elites and bad elites, and we know that there are, but I think there's been a lot of trickery in this whole investment, because when you do your research, you'll find out that some of these people who were involved in this whole thing actually went to jail. So I just find that interesting that people are still talking about these prosperity packages. Well, if this St. Germain Trust, it's just like this website, I just couldn't find anything tangible, nothing at all. And if there was a real St. Germain Trust, right, it has to be legally registered somewhere. I could find no information at all whatsoever, right? I mean, sure, there's trust funds that could be named that. And all that, this has got all these links just by, just all these different websites that talk about this. All they do is link to other fakery websites. That's all they do, or the links don't exist anymore. They're supposed to have all these, like this one here. The word, let me see here. This fund contains deliver precious metals and currencies worth upwards of 1 quadrillion US dollars. And of course I've heard lower numbers than that, quadrillions of dollars and trillions of dollars. Now, if that was the case, if they really wanted to help people, they wouldn't need the Iraq dinar to revalue in order to do it. And, after a couple years, it was back in 2009, and after a couple years of hearing all this information, I began to think, I said, if they have all this money, why would they need a dinar RV? They could just start handing out these prosperity packages. Why would they need to do that? And I remember one website that I went to back in the day, and they were connected to the prosperity packages. And they said, they had their whole website set up. Oh, we're here to help poor people and this and that. Submit your name and information. And so I did that. And they said, I'm sorry, we don't have any money, but we're waiting on the dinar RV. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So I just want people to be aware that this N.E.S.A.R.A thing, and some of these things get really crazy with UFOs and aliens and all kind of crazy stuff. And I just want you to be aware, as we get closer to this thing, you're probably going to be hearing more and more about prosperity packages. And I don't want to disappoint anybody who feels like, like they say, I don't have that many dinars because, I can't really afford to buy dinars, and we're waiting on these prosperity packages. And I don't want to give anybody, to let anybody know like I did and how I felt with the false hope. Because at the time when these elites, these good elites, claimed to have these cards that they were given to all these people, and they're going to upload $500 a month to it, and then they backed out, giving a lot of people false hope. And that's all they've done. And nothing has ever come out of that. And I still get the emails and stuff sometimes from the group. I don't go and listen on their calls anymore or nothing like that. But a lot of people have been fooled and faked by these so-called prosperity packages. And I don't want you guys, there's actually more than several people who have made comments that you guys are waiting on those prosperity packages. Now, of course, you could say the same thing about the dinar, but the difference is, I can show you what the central banks are doing. I can show you what the central banks have said and done. I can show you information, factual information, right? We know that the central banking system is changing. I've been showing you video after video after video. So this whole N.E.S.A.R.A thing, I don't really, after doing the research on it, I just don't, yes, it's a very good proposal. It was a set of proposals, economic reforms suggested during the 1990s by Harvey Francis Barnard. Barnard claimed that the proposals, which included replacing the income tax with the national sales tax, abolishing compound interest rates on secure loans, and returning to a bimetallic currency, which would result in zero inflation and a more stable economy. The proposals were never introduced to Congress. So then it just goes on. And of course, I did other research on other places, so this is not the only place. That's why I want people making comments saying, oh, you just went to Wikipedia or whatever. No, I did a lot of research, and I could find absolutely nothing on this. So if you're one of those elites, send me an email and show me the truth, because I don't see anything. And I will tell you, And I hear the word elites a lot, and I've been hearing it for many, many, many years, since 2009. And these elites are supposed to be super wealthy and all this and all that. And then if that was the case, at least the group that I was dealing with, if that happened, why wouldn't they have done what they said they were going to do? You don't need to do anything. You don't need to try to circumvent certain things if people are trying to avoid income taxes. Just give the money if that's what they were going to do. So I just wanted to let my viewers know that I could not find any credible information concerning these prosperity packages or the St. Germain Trust that it supposedly has quadrillions of dollars in it. I could find nothing at all. So for those of you who are holding on and waiting on those, I wouldn't put any faith into that because I could absolutely find nothing. And if anybody that is out there that has credible information and not just to a website, please email me, my email is below in the description. Yeah, in these so-called elites, I've had my run-ins with so-called good ones and so-called bad ones. You know, they make a lot of promises. You know, I've had people contact me, you know, concerning my project and, you know, how they want to fund it and this and that. You know, and more recently, I had a meeting with a potential investor who was part of this elite group, and I met with one of the representatives, and I could say that it was a farce. It's all about, and when I got done with the meeting, it went from being about my project to be some type of political representation in this ongoing war between liberals and conservatives and Republicans and Democrats, and you know, I just didn't fit what they were looking for. So I find that this whole subject interesting. So please don't put your faith in those prosperity packages or the St. Germain Trust that has quadrillions of dollars in it, because they didn't need the N.E.S.A.R.A in order to give out these prosperity packages. Period. They had all that money, they would just given it out just because that's what they were supposed to do. If they really truly had this money, they wouldn't need the dinar revaluation. They wouldn't need the global reset. They would have just done it anyway. Twisted Christian out.